Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. We are here for some more seminars, talking some more catfishing right now. So if that's your thing, stick around. This is going to be a good one. They've been dropping a lot of good nuggets. So if you want to catch some of those big 40, 50 plus pound catfish, you're going to learn a couple of things. We will be doing the seminars again, just like we did yesterday. We got two good sonar discussions. We've got more bass fishing and closing off with some more fly fishing. Doors close at 5 today. Come on down here. Still an amazing number of vendors, tons of good deals to be had. So we'd love to have you come on down here to the Alabama Fishing Show and Expo here at the venue in Gadsden. Without further ado, I'm going to shut up and turn the camera around. So over to you, Mr. Delvisco.
Churchwell, a guy I just met the other day, as a matter of fact. Stacy Gaston introduced us, and you guys tag team did a little catfish seminar yesterday, which was awesome. Now you got them all to yourself, right here Sunday morning. Aaron Churchwell going to talk about catching giant catfish. Maybe someday I'll learn how to catch a giant one too.
You're just going to have to come up and get in the boat with me.
That's right. You have to come in and get in the boat with you and go fish. Take it away, Aaron.
All right, guys, good morning. I'm going to kind of do it a little different. I understand that a lot of people don't even know that there are catfish tournaments out there, or that segment of the fishing industry is there. So instead of talking about a bunch of stuff that you guys probably don't understand, I'm going to let you guys kind of lead with questions and stuff like that. So my name's Aaron Churchwell. I grew up in Southwest Missouri. I grew up sustenance fishing. I mean, we fished to eat back then. Did a lot of catfishing growing up on rod and reel, did a little bit of trout line, limb line, stuff like that, but I fell in love with fishing when I was a kid. My dad would take me hunting. I sat in a blind when I was 6 years old and watched my dad shoot the Missouri state record, typical whitetail, and it just wasn't for me. So I fell in love with fishing young and just ran with it whenever I turned 18 and just been doing it ever since. So we target some of the biggest fish in North America. Our fish, the world record for a blue cat is 143 pounds. It was caught out of the James River. The world record for a flathead catfish is 121, and it's caught out of the Missouri River. So these fish get huge. So we target those in tournaments. We do 3 fish limits, kind of the same way with bass fishing. They have 5 fish. We have 3 fish. Every state's different on regulations. So like Alabama actually started regulations on catfish. So there's a 34-inch rule. So a lot of our tournaments are 2 over 34 inches, so 2 of the biggest ones you can catch and then 1 under. That smaller fish can make or break you some days. So we'll start off with that. Does anybody have any questions so far?
What's the best way for someone who's set up for strictly bass fishing that's interested in starting to catfish?
Probably the best way, there's a ton of YouTube videos out there now. There's nothing that you can't do without YouTube these days. I mean, YouTube, you can learn how to fix a car if you've never even worked on one. There's a ton of different YouTube channels out there. I actually do YouTube sometimes. I don't do it as much as I used to. But there's plenty of YouTube stuff out there to learn how to target fish and stuff like that. Fishing for bass and fishing for catfish is real similar. I mean, you guys target structure. Your version of structure a lot of times is laydowns or docks or ledges and creek mouths, stuff like that. It's the same thing for us. I mean, we're targeting, trees laying on the ledge of the river, shallow flats. I mean, it's real similar. It's just different times of the year for us. This time of the year, your guys' fish are probably full spawn right now. Getting close. So, I mean, they're already up there making nests, everything like that. Our fish aren't even thinking about that yet. They're still feeding up for it. But, I mean, a fish is a fish. They are all similar in their own ways. So, yeah, YouTube's got a lot of stuff to learn how to rig up different stuff. And it's all about what you're comfortable with. That's probably my biggest success with tournament fishing is confidence. Being confident in what you do. So, I mean, I use 40-pound mono. I use a heavier action rod. I use monofilament. or a copolymer. And then we have a leader on there that's the abrasion resistance for the fish's tooth pad. So that's usually 80, some guys use 100, but just having the right gear, being prepared for it. So for the people that just got in here, we're talking about catfishing today, and it's kind of, I'm gonna do an open floor. So instead of talking about a bunch of stuff that you guys probably don't understand, we're just gonna let you guys kind of ask the questions and we'll run with it from there. So, any other questions? Yeah.
So when you come to a new body of water that you have to fish, what is the first thing that you're looking for? What's your thoughts when you're coming to a new body? Do you do a lot of map recon before you come up? What do you do?
My biggest thing is water temperature. I mean, these are cold-blooded creatures. So, and the same thing with bass fishing, water temperature is what pushes these fish. It's the same thing with our fish. Water temperature is what pushes these fish. That's what determines when they spawn. That's what determines whenever they move to different areas of the lake and everything like that. So water temperature is gonna be my number one. Yes, I do look at maps before I get there and just kind of scout it out and look, okay, hey, I've got a bunch of creek channels up here on the upper end of the lake that if we get rain, then fish are probably gonna move to. I've got a lot of deeper water down here that, you know, so yes, maps, we do study a lot of maps. So, and then also regulations. I mean, that's a big thing because we're fishing with bait. I mean, there's some states, like in the state of Alabama, I can't use a crappie for bait. State of Georgia, I can. So it's just different regulations in different states, so definitely checking with those. So.
When you were fishing to eat, or if you were fishing to eat now, what's the biggest thing you would keep?
So when I was a kid, we kept everything. And we didn't, I mean, but there wasn't social media back then. There wasn't the internet back then. So you didn't understand all the pollutants and everything that's going into this water system. So a lot of these waterways now, they have regulations on what you should eat or shouldn't eat. It's like Tennessee. You go up there and you go on the banks of the Tennessee River up there in Chattanooga, there's signs all over. They don't want you to eat a fish over 34 inches. And I think that goes back to how long that fish has been in that body of water. PCBs and mercury counts in our water systems today are ridiculous. But today, if I were gonna go out and catch fish to eat them, anything under 10 pounds. That fish is still young. It's the same thing with, you know, cows. You know, it's gonna be a better meat from a younger cow than it is an old bull sitting out there. So it's the same thing. And plus, our bigger fish, so they reproduce at, it's 2,000 pounds or 2,000 eggs per pound of fish. So that 40-pound female is gonna put more fry back in the water compared to that 10-pound fish. So, yeah.
Just an online question, speaking of sizing of fish, is it true there are catfish as big as Volkswagens below the dam?
So I travel everywhere all over this country, pretty much from Texas to the East Coast and up into probably lower Illinois, Ohio River area. Every lake you go to, every river system you go to, you hear that same story that my cousin was a diver and they went down there below the dam and they seen one as big as a Volkswagen. So I think that's old wives' tale. I don't think we honestly know how big these fish actually get. I don't know. They talk about fish coming out of the Mississippi River back 20 years ago that were 200 pounds. I don't know. They may be that big, they may not. So.
What about water current? Does it play a big factor in what you're looking for when you catfishing?
Depending.
Around here, we do a lot of fishing below the dam, you know.
Yeah, so, and that's, I mean, fish get conditioned. I mean, you go to Pickwick and you smallmouth fish. Certain times of the year, they go right there below the dam and they catch some big smallmouth. Those fish are used to that. So when they open them floodgates and that island floods under and them fish just move up in that island, they're used to that. Like this river right here, Neely Henry. That river's not got that much current throughout the year. A lot of times they're only running one turbine. They run one turbine for most of the day. Or they'll shut it completely off. So I think it's to whatever body of water you go to. Like when I go fishing Mississippi, average current speed out there is anywhere from 4 to 8 miles an hour. Those fish live in that. They know how to get out of it. They know how to move around in it. And
No bar to get out.
yeah, yeah. So
They come right back out and all their food's coming right to them.
yep. So here on Neely, these fish I don't think they like whenever they start running 3 turbines. Because you get up in the backwaters here in the creek arms and stuff, and them fish are stacked in there. So,
You see a lot of guys, during crappie season, which is pretty much on us right now. I've been down there before, and there've been a lot of them, they will be out there noodling and catching some pretty decent blues and stuff up in the back of the,
yeah. So those fish are up in there spawning. And those fish will spawn in a foot of water sometimes. So, and they got something totally different on their
What
mind.
about the noodling deal? What do you think about that? I mean, not noodling, let's go where you got to hook on the pole under the boat ramp.
I don't-
A little cheating in your book, or?
I don't ever want to do it. I've never done it, but I don't ever want to do it. For one, I don't know what I'm sticking my hand in there and grabbing a hold of.
Well, they got the hook on the end of the pole, though.
But
I mean, you know,
two, the other thing is we're going back to that fish is spawning. So that fish, that male,
right there, they under the boat ramps around a lot of these homes and stuff, and that's what they're
yep.
there for.
So the way catfish spawn is the male actually goes in, he builds the nest, and he comes back out and he finds the female, and then he physically grabs a hold of her and pulls her back there. He puts her in the nest, she lays her eggs, he does his thing. He stays there for 10 to 14 days. He keeps those eggs and the fry in his mouth for 3 or 4 days after they hatch. So if you pull that, fish out of there, even if you stick them back in there, because you see YouTube videos all the time, guys say, well, we put them back in and you can come back next week and catch the same fish. You may be able to. I don't know if those eggs are surviving. I like my arms.
What's left of mine, more time to keep, bro?
Any other questions? So I did 9 years in the military. My last duty station was Fort Drum, New York. It's colder than cold up there. For almost the full 9 years that I was in the military, I didn't fish. I was young and dumb, and I wasn't even thinking about that back then. But I got into smallmouth fishing up there and bought a little 12-foot V-hole John boat, put a little trolling motor back on it, and thought I was bulletproof, took it out on the Great Lakes, almost sank it. But when I moved down here, I moved to Rome, Georgia, and they have the stripe fishing over there. Some of the best stripe fishing in the country, right? So I got into stripe fishing and pretty heavy and bought a kayak and started chasing them. And I mean, it's probably one of the best fights you're ever going to have in your life, catching a 30, 40-pound striper, especially in 2 foot of water. But those fish fight till they die. So it's not conservative. So I kind of pulled back away from that, started catfishing a little bit, and that's part of stripe fishing, especially bait fishing for stripe, you catch catfish. So I started catching some blues and stuff like that, smaller fish, and I had a buddy one day that asked me, he said, hey man, there's a tournament over here out of Brushy Branch. You want to go fish it? We got our tails whooped that day, but I was set. I mean, I was that day, I looked at my buddy, and the guy that won it, he said he always wins. He's a guide here. And I said, I'm going to beat him. And I set out for, that year, I probably spent 200 days on that river. And I just wanted to learn as much as I could and never look back. So.
As far as that goes, do you have any tips for targeting, trophy-sized catfish from a kayak versus from a boat?
I know that you guys are a little more limited on how far you guys can go and everything like that. I've never kayak fished on a big river system for catfish, so I don't really have any knowledge on that, so I don't want to say anything, but I mean, it's the same thing. Learning how to pattern fish, learning how fish move, that was probably the biggest key to me being very successful in this. Was how many of you guys went fishing with your grandpa or your dad? How many times did you go out to the same exact spot, and he always told that story of Well, my brother or cousin Dean down the road or whatever, they caught a giant right here 20 years ago. And they live and die by that one spot, right? And at the end of the day, when you don't catch anything, he'd always tell you, they just weren't biting today, right? Go to a tournament weigh-in, and you tell me if they weren't biting. They're always eating somewhere. But learning conditions, learning how fish move to different currents, different water temp, different barometric pressure, learning that stuff, and just learning patterns of fish. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, you're just limited on how far you can go. So.
When you pull up to a spot and marking some fish, you see them, you know you're gonna fish them. How long do you sit there before you determine if they're active fish or if they're the kind of fish that you want? How long do you
So
get to this spot?
if I'm anchor fishing, I'm gonna give it just depends. Most of the time, 30 minutes, about 30 minutes. If you don't get him to eat within 30 minutes, probably gonna move on. I fished, so we're in a transition time right now in the catfish world. They're trying to do MLF style tournaments. Every fish you catch, you have a marshal on the boat, he weighs it, we let it go. You get one fish that you get to put in your live well that you don't weigh, and that's your mystery fish at the end of the day. We were on Wheeler for the last one that we did, a little trial run, and it was 10 minutes. You pulled up, found fish, threw the rods out, and within 10 minutes, that was it. You weren't getting another bite. So you want to talk about a tiring day, because those are one-man tournaments. You started out with 8 rods that morning, and by the end of the day, I was only fishing with 4. And then I was looking at my marshal with me, I said, I should have brought a drill.
Who's running that series? Is that
Cat Masters.
Cat Masters?
Yep. So,
Is that by invite only?
do what?
Is that by invite only? How do you?
No, so just the two trial ones that we did were invite only. The next season will be all that style. They're still making little changes here and there, but it's going to be open to anybody. They'll probably put a 100-boat cap on it, and it'll be a 3-day tournament. So your first 2 days won't be televised, but if you finish in the top 10 on the 3rd day, then you get to do the televised part of it. So, yeah, yeah. So I think it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be an awesome venue for us. It's going to be a change. It's going to get a lot of eyes on the sport, so help grow it. Yeah.
Okay, so your favorite baits, and how often do you have to switch up baits in one spot because they're not hitting what we throw from the start?
So my favorite bait would be depending on where I'm going to fish, what body of water. So Wheeler Lake's going to be skipjack. It's going to be skipjack. I mean, that is the predominant bait source there. I don't think those fish get to eat them all the time because of how fast they are. So I think it's kind of like a delicacy to them. You put me down here on the Coosa, it's going to be red horse sucker. It all depends on where I go. If I get to fish in Georgia, it's probably going to be, I don't know if I should say this, but crappie. So, I mean, these are the apex predator of our water system. They eat everything. And I ain't got nothing against the bass guys or the crappie guys, but those fish eat those at some point throughout their life. So.
So, legality aside, would you bring like a non-native bait to a body of water? Would you bring skipjack down here and fish on the Coosa?
I would.
I didn't know if you prefer like native to that body of water baits.
Well, skipjack used to be in the Coosa. So if you go below Lake Jordan, you can still catch them. But when they built all these dams, they don't have locks on them, so these fish can't travel back and forth. So these fish here will still eat skipjack. Skipjack's one of the most predominant baits used all over the country. I mean, guys use them, they come over here and catch them every spring and bring them back to Texas and freeze them and use them out there. It's just a real oily, real bloody bait that is pretty good anywhere. But as far as like going to the Mississippi and catching Asian carp and then bringing them out here on the Coosa, I'm not going to do that. Yeah.
Have you tried the premium baits, the guys that are making?
I haven't.
The Asian carp now?
I haven't tried them yet. We don't have. So I live on Wheeler. So if I need skipjack, it's 25-minute ride for me, and I can start catching them. I really spent last year really learning how to catch them all throughout the year too. So even in the wintertime when it gets really tough, I get in the backs of creeks and in tributaries and stuff like that and able to catch enough to go fish with. So, but as far as, I've heard a lot of success of guys with that new bait. So maybe it'll help combat those Asian carp a little bit too. So another use for them. Where's everybody from? Everybody from local here? Athens, Georgia. I used to live in Atlanta.
Athens, Alabama.
Pensacola, man, you came up a long ways. So you fish Seminole down there? You fish Seminole down there?
That's a little further from us.
Yeah.
We're like an hour from Tensall, Toledo River, Sandy River.
Okay. The Seminole's got a really good blue cat population in it. Yeah. Yep, they've got some good, flatheads aren't really easy to catch there, but blue cats are real. I love fishing down there. So, yeah. Athens, what you got down in Athens to fish? Savannah River? Hartwell. Okay, yeah, that's not too far from here. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. For some reason I was thinking Athens way down there.
Coal City, Alabama, between Radley and Pell City, so I've got Logan Martin and I got Neely Henry.
Logan's a secret. That's a secret fishery. It don't get pressured a lot.
We like striped fish, saltwater stripe,
Yeah.
25 pounds, they run up and catfish, Neely Henry side.
Yep.
Probably top through there.
Yep. There used to be a ton of guides down there. You don't really see much posts from them anymore. I don't know if a lot of them.
First time I didn't realize my dad, he said red horse suckers, and I was like, I never heard of that. And I said, oh yeah, you remember them jigs? And I was like, this guy that I work with, he's like, go in there and you can catch them on a net.
Yeah.
And they're live red horse suckers. I've never seen one live, so that's something new to me this year. So I'm gonna try to go down there and catch some off the dam. So.
Yeah. They passed that law last year where you can't transport live fish from one body of water to another. So the guys on Logan could still come up and catch them and use them to stripe fish, but the guys from Lay and all that, they couldn't transport them anymore. So, yeah. Yep. Any other questions?
Talk about skipjack for a minute. How you catching them?
I make my own sabiki rigs. You know what a sabiki rig is? Like what you use down on the piers catching bait fish in the ocean. It's got probably 5 to 7 little bitty flies all up and down it. So I make my own version of that. I just use crappie jigs. So it's just a smaller bait. Foley spoons work really good. It's just a spoon that a guy up in Guntersville makes. And it's just a real flashy. He's got a bunch of different colors. A smaller profile. So skipjack is a sight feeder. He's going to see what he's going to eat. So, I mean, you get cloudy days, you want to use something real bright, flashy. You know, sunny days, you can kind of get away with using anything. But
All right, and your rigs are all up and down or spread out?
it's all in one line, so you're casting for them. It's not jigging like you do in the ocean, but you're casting for them. But you keep it in the top 3 foot of the water section because they're a sight feeder, so they're going to see it before they grab it. So
They hunt, they fish above, they bite above, they hunt
yeah.
above.
So below the tail races this time of the year, once they cut this current back a little bit, they're running like 100,000 at all the dams on the Tennessee. Once they cut that back to about 70, they should just, all of them should run to the dams. So you can go below Guntersville.
That's one thing, we're out of Huntsville, so we got
Yeah.
Huntsville and Scottsboro
Yep.
close within an hour.
Yeah, so that's the same thing with me. I live in Tanner, so.
Below the Guntersville Dam, you live where?
Tanner. Yep. Yep. Right off 31. Right down there by close to the new Buc-ee's they built down there. Yeah.
We work land there, right across, kind of across the road.
Do you? Okay.
Creek bottom up, go down. Runs fair a little bit on the left.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
Jackie Leonard owns the land.
Yeah.
We put it up against tank break.
But I'm the same way. I'm 45 minutes from Wheeler Dam or 45 minutes from Guntersville Dam. So half the time my biggest argument's which one I'm going to.
Madison County
Do they?
Nice and calm, sunrise is beautiful.
They just stopped like, what, 12,000 catfish in that lake too. I saw on AL.com, they just stopped a whole bunch of catfish in Madison County.
Well, we just took one out.
They doing that probably for the kids fishing boat over there every year.
Anything else?
So on your skipjack rig, like you were saying, you go to YouTube if you know how to use YouTube at all, go on there, type in skipjack rigs or sabiki rigs, they'll teach you how to tie those knots for those sabiki rigs that he was talking about. And below, so if you do like 3 or 4 above that you're going to put on your line, then you do a weight on the bottom, and then you tie a Foley spoon below that. That's the best way to attract those skipjack because they need to see that shine. Then once they see the shine from the spoon, they'll usually hit your jig. But that shine attracts.
That's most of the time I catch them on the jigs. The spoon's just there to catch their attention.
As you flash.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, I got guys that come fish with me down here all the time, and they'll drive from Illinois, Nebraska, whatever. They just want to go skipjack fishing. They don't even care to go catfishing. It's probably one of the funnest fishing there is. I mean, you're catching numbers of them, and they jump. They call them Tennessee tarpon. They jump like tarpon, and so.
You can load up, if you've got a 500 sabiki rig, you can load up a 5 hook at any one time and catch 5 of them at once. When they're really running hard, they're a lot of fun.
Yep. You can buy a pre-made one. I just don't because whenever I get done with it, it gets all, it gets all tangled up and you got to throw it away anyways.
Well, YouTube, there's a lot of guys out there that are doing catfish videos on how to catch catfish. There's a lot of guys you can follow on YouTube that'll give you a lot of information, good information for starting out.
Yeah. Or I mean, there's some guides up there on the Tennessee. You have J.R. Hall, Josh Brown, Mike Mitchell. I mean, you can book a trip with one of them, and they are open books. They'll teach you as much as they can. So, my buddy J.R. actually just took Richard Jean fishing the other day. So he owns Black Sheep Catfishing Guide Service, and they just put a YouTube video out the other day. So he does a lot of fishing up on Gunnersville. Yeah. So, anything else? All right, guys. Well, I'll be at the SmackDown booth the rest of the day. So if you guys think of anything else, y'all can come on by and.
Yeah, you were just talking about folks coming down. Do you do guided tours?
I don't guide. I tournament fish too much. I ain't got time to do that. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, so next up in about 30 minutes, 12:30, we're going to have Josh Payard from Hummingbird. Guys, if you've never seen his presentation, I think he's talking mega imaging, wealth of knowledge on especially the Hummingbird product, but he also will cover a lot of sonar basics, that'll help you with whatever brand. But particularly if you're a Hummingbird guy and you've got questions, tune in. We'll be back live in about 20-25 minutes with Josh Payard from Hummingbird. Come on down. If you're in the area, come on down here to the venue. All right, guys. We'll see you.